totally in that state of nirvana, one has to go into what Yogananda called the grand samadhi, where you merge with all samadhis. You merge with all consciousness. You no longer have an identity. In order to not have an identity, you have to reach that state.
Wow. So in other words, all egoism, all identities, all feelings, I guess, is null and void once you reach this thing called nirvana, once you reach the end point.
That's correct.
And you've got no
right.
essence.
That's right. And then you're merging into the God consciousness.
And
it's just a whole. It's like that big cloud in the sky and your raindrop that came out of it.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering, though, that do you think humans would enjoy that? Because we enjoy simple pleasures, like I like to have a pizza, I'd like to have a romance, I like to hold hands, do you think that, I mean, it seems like everything is gone.
See, that's all mental constructs of this planet being in a human form. All right? But if you're not in a human form, and you're in a spiritual form where you can look any way you want, and you can zip anywhere you want, and you have no desire for food because you don't have to feed your body anymore, and you don't have pain anymore, and there is no illness, but there's everything to grow and learn, well, it's a completely different reality, isn't it?
It's something that I'm not familiar with, and I can't imagine going through life without that chocolate bar. So, it's something that,
actually, you're not wrong about that, Jim. There are actually, because I see around people what's going on around people, right? And I have walked through restaurants and looked towards bars and seen people that died still addicted to alcohol and hanging out with people as they're drinking so they could get that high off of them. They can virtually get the high off of the human being because they don't have a body. They can't drink, but they want the feeling that person's getting from that drink. Or hanging out with somebody that's having that big piece of chocolate cake because they want that feeling you have when that chocolate hits your taste buds. Souls do that when they're out of body. Absolutely. That aren't advanced yet, that aren't, that have to come in. To remember, when you end a lifetime, you have a soul group on the other side, and you remember instantly why you were born and what you were to learn, and you're able to see your life like a kaleidoscope in front of you instantly. It's like the most advanced form of technology you've ever witnessed, all right? You see everything that ever occurred and the effects it had on all beings. So you go through all of it, and you get to see where you stood out, or you didn't quite make the mark, and that's how you plan your next lifetime. It's all based on how much you accomplished in this most recent one.
And so what do you think happens to criminals and mass murderers and what's going on right now with the Middle East?
They can choose to be victims in their next lifetime. Well, many times what will happen, I've had this come up so many times in hypnosis. I will have, let's say, a female I'm working on, and she will be a nun in one lifetime. I'll take her back a little further, and she was a prostitute. So she was balancing out her sexuality through being a prostitute and then being a nun, taking it all away. And the same thing happens. I have witnessed and taken people into situations that were in past life. In fact, it actually happened to me when I was taking somebody into a hypnosis session. My whole roof started to crackle, and I saw it. And I saw myself in a very primitive lifetime virtually stabbing this man that I had in a trance state.
Wow.
And I apologized to him. When I brought him back, I apologized. I said, that was me in that lifetime. And I am so sorry. And you don't expect these things to happen, but they do. So a person, let's say, commits murder in a lifetime, they will come in to be a victim of the person they murdered in some way. It may not be it may not be in the exact same fashion, but they will become a victim. They'll lose all their money to that person. They'll lose their love to that person, but they will karmically complete that. Now, if we have a soul that is so incredibly evil, souls have been dissolved, by the way.
Okay. Oh, really? Interesting.
Uh-huh.
That's another topic.
This is heavy. There are some powerful books written on this by hypnotherapists. It's Lipton is his last name. I think it's Stephen Lipton. It's either Michael Lipton or Stephen Lipton. He wrote a book called The Journey of Soul, and there's two books, The Destiny of Souls and The Journey of Souls. And he had 60 clients that he could take into deep hypnotic states, into in-between lives, where they would actually see themselves out of body in these other places. And they talk about that, where you have someone who is just, let's say it's someone like Putin in Russia, all right, who is just very destructive and very harmful. All right, there's a council that really makes a decision whether he really can be redeemed or not.
Interesting.
And if a person has been so vicious, has been so cruel, has done so many evil things, that they don't feel they're redeemable, they virtually dissolve that soul.
Wow. So death of a soul. That's interesting. So someone like, say, Hitler,
Yes.
Khmer Rouge, these mass murderers in history that killed like millions and millions upon people.
Yep, the dark forces. Many have been actually removed. They're in the dark forces.
Well, let me ask you this.
We have there's an oversoul that oversees this planet, by the way. And the Galactic Federation is part of that oversoul. That it monitors. It's not allowed to interfere with our free will. However, they do sometimes stop things from happening. And they do that because sometimes things get out of control. And that's a good thing. So the most important thing for each of us is to always, always, always get to know who we are, what gives us passion in life, and to be accepting and forgiving of others. Because we don't know at what level that person's at, and we don't know what they're working through. And as I said before, sometimes those petty tyrants who give us the most difficult lessons in life love us dearly.
But Jan, let's go back a little bit, okay? Because you're talking about the mass murders, how souls dissolve, and that is fascinating to me. So let me give you a scenario here, okay? The atomic bomb, okay? You have some people think that killing hundreds of thousands was the right thing to do. For instance, okay, let's go back to Nagasaki, okay, and Hiroshima, okay? Those guys, those American soldiers, went over and killed hundreds and thousands of innocent babies and children and women. What about them? How are they judged? I mean, I know we judge them as heroes. The Japs judge them as monsters.
We would have to, here's the problem. We would have to know where all this started, all right? Because let's just say that all those little children and babies volunteered because they had been on the other side in the 5th dynasty in let's say, Mongolia, where a lot of viciousness occurred. Let's just say they came from another place. What we don't know, and why we don't get to decide this, is we don't know where this started, do we? See, war on this planet has been going on since the beginning of time. And one war begets another, and another, and another. But I can tell you this, if you take a life, you lose a part of your own. And it's something that takes a long time to ever regain. So, yes, that will be looked at, and it either, if it was karmic, as a completion to balance out another time, then there would not be a death. Most death of souls are done individually, by the way, Jim.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They're an individual. Let's say that one of those warriors was on both sides in both wars and killed again. That person would be singled out. And if that thirst for death was so untamable, let's say, then yes, that soul would be dissolved. But it's done on an individual basis, not a group basis.
Because I'm thinking that there are set rules and set standards that whoever created this karmic thing has. Okay, so like I said before, Americans may see our soldiers as heroes, and yet they can, like the massacre of My Lai, I think, in Vietnam, where they killed over 100 villagers. They see that man maybe as a hero, although some do see them as villains. But then, if the opposite happened to us, we'd see that person obviously as a villain, like say the 9/11 people.
But the reality is we're all souls from God. There's no division.
So who judges?
We have to stop looking at people by their nationality, their culture, their religion, and these are all lessons of turning our back and walking away. And when we cannot do that, I know and helped many Vietnam vets that were just so damaged from the war. This is where PTSD comes in. This is where drug addiction came in so strong. It is not natural to kill a human being. Because all human beings are fashioned from the same God. Everyone. There's no good souls or bad souls except for ones that have chosen through their free will to be harmful.
Then why do we do it?
Why do they do it?
Yeah.
Because we have day and we have night, correct?
Yes.
And we live in a reality that allows everything to grow. So you can choose a path towards the light, or you can choose a path towards darkness. And dark forces have been coming stronger and stronger on the earth plane for the last about 300 years, all right? So there have been a lot of dark forces coming in, and those dark forces have been trying to pull people away from what their spiritual truth truly is. But rarely is a person who murders and kills feel good about themselves. They're damaged as a rule. These are usually damaged souls to start with. So the question on the other side is always going to be, is this soul redeemable? And they spend a lot of time working on that. Nobody's just quickly done away with. It just doesn't happen. It's a person can volunteer for things to happen to balance that out, because it's kind of like Earth is like a playground of things happening, but you have to remember this, Jim. Nothing can truly be destroyed.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I understand.
So we get to act out all these plays here. And one of the worst one has been acted out against animals, quite frankly.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the cruelest things that happen to animals. And so on the other side, it's all looked at. There's not one act you'll ever do in your life that's not looked at. It's all evaluated. Every single thing is evaluated. And you can come back to the funny farm here, because this is a place, remember, free will gets to live, so you can choose anything that you want. And right now, this planet is under a massive change. There's massive change going on the planet. So it's kind of like you're trying to look at a universe through a thimble. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's very difficult because you would have to know all the reasoning behind each of those acts before you could really say that person was an evil person.
So are souls born, or let's say, I don't know if a soul has a beginning. I would imagine that it does. Are they pure? And then they get these impurities because how does a soul become so bad that they have to be discarded or, they're not used anymore?
Because there's no desire whatsoever for any kind of spiritual truth or merging with God. There's just no longer that desire. They have just pulled themselves so far into the darkness that they just don't want out. And they've created so much cruelty that they can't be salvaged. And there's not that many that they've had to do that with, but it does occur. Imagine a million children of God that tell God, we'd like to go out and find out what we can do on our own.
All right.
And a loving God said, okay, I'll tell you what. I'll placed myself in your heart so that you'll know when something's right or wrong. And you have to listen to it. But I'll give you free will. So you can do things, and you're going to do things that you shouldn't do just so you'll know how it feels inside, so that you'll have a measure. Got that?
Yes.
So you're going to go off the deep track because all you've got is this little heart reminding you. So we go out into life, and we all do things, say words we're sorry for, do things we're sorry for, because we have a measure of that feeling inside, don't we?
I would certainly hope so.
And when we're doing something that we know is right, we feel it, but we have to get in contact with your heart, not just your mind. And your mind's a powerful recorder of all events. But the power of you within is in your heart and solar plexus. That's where your greater truth is. Now, from your mind, you can get the ahas, but that's because that feeling of nirvana is when all aspects of you are in total balance, and they're in agreement. Make sense?
Yes, it does.
So when everything's in agreement, you're in your God form, and you have a higher self above your head that is constantly reminding you in impulses, feelings, thoughts of the right thing to do.
So in other words, your intuition.
But yeah, your intuition, those thoughts, sometimes even events that occur are occurring to remind you to follow the right path.
Okay.
So so it's all in that bundle of awareness, right?
Yeah.
And most people that you know are really good people, but good people do have bad things. I will have to say that too.
Oh yeah.
Because good people can be put in wrong upbringings be treated incorrectly, be abused, and so hurt people will hurt people. Know that.
I would imagine
If they've
so.
been hurt, then they will hurt. It's a natural thing. But those are not people, they learn from those lessons. They're given opportunities for other lifetimes to do things in different ways. So it's usually someone who's just created tremendous harm, like Hitler, where you've destroyed many, many people, that he's still in suspended. What I understand about Hitler, what I was told about Hitler, is he's in suspended animation still.
Oh, his soul is still around, huh?
Not here, but his soul is in suspended animation because aspects of him are still being lived out on the planet.
That's scary.
Well, we've got an aspect of him right now headed for the presidency, don't we?
Oh, well, I don't think. I don't know if that's that bad.
We have an aspect of him running. We have an aspect of Hitler running Russia.
Well, I think we have an aspect in the Middle East too. So I don't want to name names though, but
we have an aspect that wants to put send all the immigrants out of the country.
Yeah.
All right. Anytime we start judging people by color, race, religion, we're moving beyond compassion, and doesn't matter who it is, we are moving into the aspect that Hitler brought to the planet.
Well, that happens every day, and that happens every week, especially on Sundays in America. When we go one church, another person goes to another church, it happens on a constant basis.
But that would be okay if those churches all honored all other churches.
Yeah, that doesn't usually happen, though. They ridicule.
Well, actually, I have seen many people in varying religions because it helped them not be addicts. It helped them have something to believe in so they can begin to believe in themselves. So religion serves many purposes for people. And the key is to allow other religions without having wars between them. And that's actually one of the things I like about Hinduism, because Hinduism allows for other religions, and it allows for the love of life. And in Hinduism is allowed for the incorporation of Christianity within it. It's also a religion that you seek yourself. You have to do the meditation. You have to be the one to do the work. You don't listen to somebody telling you how to believe, because then that's somebody else's truth. and your truth is inside of you. So it's an ancient religion, and it's a religion where you have to seek God from inside of you.
Fascinating. But I thought Hindus believe in many gods.
Hindus have many gurus. All right, they have many gurus. All universal truths have a lot of varying beliefs within them, and there is a God. But many times in some religions, like some Christian religion, believe that Jesus is God.
Oh yeah,
and not the Son of God, but that he's the personification of God, versus what he really was, which was a prophet. So there's just many schools of thought, and we're going to grow into more of a universal religion as we move into the future, Jim. We're going to go into more of a universal religion, and a universal religion is going to be there's much more awareness that's going to come to us as we grow and develop, because you would not be on the planet right now. This is important, I think, for all your listeners to know. You would not be on the planet right now if you weren't ready to take a giant leap.
Interesting.
All right?
Yeah.
So you knew that before you were born, that you would come into a time that would be so unique and different from any time ever lived on this planet that you committed to take a giant leap. So that's why it's really important to stay true to yourself and don't get caught up in what's going on around you. Stay true to yourself. What do you feel is true? I even tell people as far as past lives goes, imagine that you could connect to any life that was ever lived because you're a part of God consciousness. It can be that simple.
And how does one find out about who they were? I mean, do they need specialists like yourself?
The easiest way is through hypnosis, quite frankly.
Okay.
The easiest way to go to a past life is to go to a hypnotherapist. That's a good one, and you will be guided into a past life. And it's easy because there's no way you can escape it. And you may not, to become a hypnotherapist, I'll give you an idea. To become a hypnotherapist, you have to go into victim lifetimes. You have to go into lifetimes that you made contracts. You have to go into lifetimes when you were a petty tyrant. All right, when you were the bad guy.
Right.
You have to look at lifetimes when you were on all sides of things, and you get to heal them. The beautiful part is that you get to go back and heal all those lives. And the thing is that I find that when you go into the lifetimes where you were the culprit, it's more powerful in healing the present moment than if you go into lifetimes when you're the victim.
That's very interesting. Needless to say. So I'm very curious to know, because I think you did a past life regression on me, and I saw myself in a village in India, beautiful scenery, and then of course last week I think you told me that I was a Viking.
Last week when we had you look down and you picked up that star, I saw that star and what it symbolized on a great big staff and a sword that you had as this very large Viking man who was conqueror of the seas, who knew the seas better than anyone. So you were like a star in that world. Got it?
Yeah.
You were a leader in that world. And so you felt big. You felt important. You felt that you were part of the universe. You felt special. So it's a lifetime that sometimes allows you to take risks that you wouldn't normally take, Jim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So sometimes we'll pull from a lifetime a gift that we're pulling from there that allows us to step out and make a difference and take risk. And I feel like the Viking in you is more that part of you that has been a risk taker your whole life. It doesn't come as much from that beautiful Indian life, which is more peace and harmony within you, as it comes from your ability to move into areas you've never been in before. It's like navigating waterways you've never been in before. Got it?
Yeah, I prefer the Indian life, the peaceful.
Well, the Indian life is so much more peaceful. It's like I have memories of being in a scene and studying rituals, studying spiritual texts, and translating them. And it was just my soul soared when I was able to do that. It was a feeling of one with God. It was so empowering. But I have to tell you, I also felt the power of stretching people in the Tower of London as a torturer. And when I was in that lifetime in a trance state, I felt very powerful stretching people and taking the kinks out of their back. And and it was actually torturing them.
Interesting,
right?
Yeah.
But I was a good torturer. I was male. I was really good at it.
You were a good torturer. Wow.
I was a great torturer, right?
Oh my
I
God.
can't even imagine that in this lifetime. I even wanted to even possibly hurt a person, but I did it. I was a torturer. I never wanted to go to England because I didn't want to deal with that lifetime.
Oh, yeah. England is known for torturing a lot of souls.
Oh, exactly. And yet I made peace with it because I had to help a lot of people as payment for all that. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
It's all part of what you do in life that you know you're going to do because of what you've done in the past. It is what it is.
It is what it is. Well, I think that...
Jim, you can also meet a person from past life that recognizes you from that past life. That's happened to me as well.
Oh, really? I get that too. Sometimes I kind of like run into somebody and I can sense the energy. And even when he doesn't or she doesn't look back at me, when we do see each other, we smile and we say hello, and that's about the extent of it. And then we go our merry ways. But I see how it kind of feels like, have I seen this person before? And you wonder about that. Same thing with deja vu. Have I been here before? Ooh, that's interesting.
Well, deja vu comes from two different places, Jim. Okay? Deja vu, if you travel and you go to an ancient place that's ancient, let's say, been here for hundreds of years, and you get that powerful pull, that deja vu, you've had a lifetime there. But let's say you walk into a brand new bank and you get deja vu. That's because you time traveled in your dream state and you were already there because you can time travel in your dream state. Got it?
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So there's two kinds of deja vus.
That's very fascinating.
It is.
Yeah. So
actually, spiritual world is like being a space explorer. Because you can explore so many nooks and crannies, and there's so much mystery. So if we forget about trying to master it and learn to live in the mystery of it, it's awesome.
See, I fully agree with you because sometimes you want to make things happen and you meditate and you pray, you hope. There are things that we just don't have any control over, and you just have to trust.
Yes.
Hopefully it'll work out.
You know what? It's the whole thing in a nutshell. There's three words I used to put on my mirror all the time. Trust the process. We don't always know where the outcome is going to be, but it will create itself in its own natural way if you just stay with it. Just go with it and just see where it takes you. And you'll go, well, I guess it was supposed to be this way. That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm sometimes, unfortunately. But it does break my heart when I see some of the things that happen, like these school shootings and,
that is one of the hardest things. But I will give you a heads up on some things that are good for people to know. When there is a mass exodus of people, all right, like a plane crash, the souls are lifted out of the body before the plane crashes.
Oh, really? Well, that gives me hope.
They never, ever get or have to experience the pain of that. Same is true, believe it or not, with these horrible... We're supposed to be removing guns, and they're trying to figure out how many shootings do we have to have before we get it. All right? But those children are lifted out. And they're lifted out. Well, they don't feel a thing.
Well, that'll give a lot of comfort to the parents and the families.
Absolutely. In fact, one of the things that I do a lot is talk to parents when they've lost a child. In fact, before I even lost my own two sons, I had a group of parents who'd lost children that I went and spoke with. And we talked about just exactly the children many times volunteer. I've had some of the most fascinating cases come up of even a SIDS baby who came in to die of SIDS to solve a riddle in a family that happened 20 years earlier.
Isn't that amazing? That is just...
Exactly.
That is just...
Because remember, Jim, we don't die, okay?
Okay.
And every soul that I've talked to this, when they pass from the body, I've gone, wow, what an experience to be pain-free. But one thing they always say is you've got to learn to monitor your thoughts, because once you don't have a body, you still can think in consciousness, and everybody hears every word you're thinking.
Yeah.
So you have no dividing lines, nothing, right? So you're thinking about India, boop, there you are, in India.
I wish I was in India right now.
You're thinking about your dad, boop, there you are. You're thinking about the ocean, boop, there you are. So, yeah, I know my son told me, monitor your thoughts, Mom, learn to, because it's going to really help you out when you get over here.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Well, Jan, that's all we have time for. I mean, we can go on forever talk about this, and I'm sure we'll revisit this. And,
well, pick out a section of it, and we can devote just to that section. Maybe people want to know more about a specific area. All right?
Yeah. Yeah,
and we can go into this and go back into it. And, I know we talked before about certain areas that we could go into, and you decide which one you want to, and we'll devote a whole show to a specific area.
Did you hear that, everybody? So we got shows devoted just to past lives and talking to the dead and talking to the spirit and, well, living a life that is refreshing and vibrant, and that's what we all want. So, Jan Venturini, I want to thank you again, my dear friend, and it's been a real joy.
It always is. I love it. I love sharing whatever I've grown to know, which is just my truth, with your public, because sometimes it opens up thresholds within each person.
And this podcast will be available at truthseekingsouls.com, and we are eventually going to make it into Apple Podcasts, so that's going to be a very cool day. Okay, this is Jim Haig with Jan Venturini. We'll see you next time.